Most people who start off with sheep do a lot of things wrong. I know I did. But there is one specific thing that I feel like if anyone starting out with sheep did differently, it would save literally years of heartache and regret. And I'm going to be talking about that thing in this video. Welcome back to another beautiful day on the High Mountain Homestead, where we practice regenerative agriculture on a small scale. I get questions from viewers all the time about how to get started with sheep. Usually it's something in the form of, hey, I'm looking to get started with sheep. How many ewes do you recommend starting off with? If I could go back in time, this is the first thing I would do differently. I wouldn't start with breeding sheep. I wouldn't start raising sheep. I would start by finishing out sheep, probably young rams. Welcome one and all to the rumination station. We've got 4 rams right now that are just a product of what we had from our lamb crop. None of these are 6 months old yet. They're all under 6 months old, so still a little ways out before finishing. 2 of them are actually already spoken for as breeding stock for some local folks around here. In fact, my next door neighbor wants to get into sheep, which is kind of cool. And then 2 of them are going to stick around with us a little bit longer and go to freezer camp, probably in the winter of next year. So when they're about 10 months old, 11, maybe 12 months old, depending on how they finish out. So we're doing it right now. You could say that we do have a crop of, young rams that we're finishing out. So let me start off with, why would someone rather breed ewes over starting with rams? I'll start with that because that's probably where most people's mind is at. Heck, that's where I started at, and I regret being in this mindset. But here's where my head was at. One, it seems like a waste of money. Sheep are not cheap, especially good sheep are not cheap, so you don't want to, spend money on sheep that aren't going to be there for a long time. Rams, are kind of a year-long investment. 2, people are impatient. I know I was definitely impatient. I just want to start doing sheep, and it feels like you're not really raising sheep unless you're breeding them. And then 3, it doesn't seem sustainable on the face of it, because ultimately you're raising out these young guys to who aren't going to reproduce, and therefore it seems like, well, is this the position I want to be in? Do I want to keep buying rams every year? But when you look at it economically, a lot of those, actually all those, get resolved really quick, and I'll go through that in just a second. Let me actually start by going into the obvious thing, is that you don't know if you really want to do sheep until you've been doing sheep. I know you could watch videos like mine on YouTube, you could read some books, you could watch some documentaries and be like, wow, sheep seem so fun. Don't get me wrong, they're fun, but they're also stressful too. It's not just watching cute lambs jump around and rotating sheep. There's a lot more to it. And so what I like about starting with rams is you really get a hard start and hard stop date, less than a year timeline, to raise out some rams to see if this is something that you want to do. That will be the easiest thing that you can do, really, is just finishing out rams. Because you process them at a fixed time, which means that if this isn't for you, well, you can hold on for a few more months and get it done. Or if it is you, great. You've learned something. You've learned that you want to do it, then you can do it. The other side of that coin is that if you start with ewes and you've spent so much money on them, and it takes years before you start making that money back, it's a challenge, and it's frustrating because there's no easy way out besides liquidating your flock. Whereas rams, you have a fixed time to get out, and that's at processing wait time. Before I get too far into this video, just want to give a quick thank you to Hi C, who sent me these boots over here that I'm wearing. So I really haven't looked at many boots out there. I'm a big muck boots fan. The problem with muck boots is that they're about at least $100. But these Hi C boots are much more affordable. They're a fraction of the price. They're very casual to just slip on and off. Very comfortable, very comparable in quality. I can't emphasize how much it is nice to be able to slip them on and off, because my kind of taller boots are pretty annoying sometimes. But I've been a big fan of these Hi C boots, so thanks for sending them to me. And they also gave me a code to pass along to you guys. If you're interested, check it out in the description. Something else great about just finishing out rams it lets you have a break for a few months out of the year. You know, if you've got sheep year-round, it makes it very hard to take a family vacation. It makes it hard to step away for even just a little bit, depending on the time of the year. But what I like about it is, you know, let's say you pick up a weaned ram at 60 days, 90 days old, or sometime between there, and then you process them, depending on the breed. These are Dorpers, so you can process a little bit earlier, but usually 10 months, depending on how your forage is and how fast they're growing, 10 to 12 months old. So, you know, you pick them up when they're 2 to 3 months old, you process them at 10 to 12 months old. You're looking at getting basically between 2 to 4 months out of the year back, where you don't have to be doing this, you know, every single day, which is a big deal. If you're moving your sheep often, every day or multiple times a week, that time adds up, and you'll be grateful for those few months break, because chances are you've got other things in your life going on besides sheep. I'll also say this, that a weaned ram is probably healthier, or at least won't have as many complications as a ewe that's, say, like, you know, recovering from nursing her lambs. I just haven't had any complications with these guys. I also, because I don't really care about parasite resistance for these guys, because again, 2 of them are going in my freezer, like they're not reproducing, I can be really proactive with a dewormer. Obviously, not for the few months leading up to processing, but during the hot, wet months of the summer, I wouldn't say I'm overdoing it with dewormer, but you know, at first signs of anything, I don't have to feel guilty about you know, the medication. Another great asset is that I don't have to worry about separating the sheep right now, and you won't either if you only raise rams out, especially for your first year. If you've ever been there for weaning or separating the ewes from the rams, it is a headache and a half to do that, and you won't have to do that if you're only raising rams for your first year. So if it makes more sense to just be buying rams, why are so many reputable breeders trying to sell you ewes with a stud ram? For example, my first set of sheep was a trio, two ewes and a ram. Well, first off, they make more money with that. You know, a good-looking ewe will sell for a lot more money than a commercial-grade ram. At the end of the day, it's all meat, but for you, your first year, it makes a lot more financial sense to maybe start with rams. So, for example, my first trio, I'm trying to remember back, this was years ago, I think I paid $2,500 for full-blood Dorper. With papers and all that, and they had some championship bloodline in there, really good looking sheep. One of these remaining ones is a line from that. The other 3 are from a newer line that I got into. But my point was $2,500 for 3 sheep. Well, let's do the math the other way. Let's say you want to start with 3 rams just to test the waters. You're paying at most $750, and that's even for, like, you know, full unpapered full bloods. You might find people that have commercial stock that are selling them for $150 a piece, and you're paying less than $500 for 3 rams. It is just immensely more cost effective. And if you're into this for the meat, which I think more people need to get into this for the meat, because it's just not sustainable, the idea of breeding for the sake of getting money to sell breeding stock, to sell breeding stock, to sell breeding stock. At the end of the day, someone's got to be making a buck off of meat, because breeding stock sales will only get you so far. The idea is to breed to make good meat, right? But anyway, let's go back to that scenario where you've got 3 rams. Those 3 rams are going to finish out at, depending on when you process, how, you know, their hanging weight, whatever, you will easily walk away with over 100 pounds hanging weight. Let's say, you know, my sheep usually hang between 50 and 55 pounds. So, you know, let's even go lower than that. Let's say you walk away with 140 pounds of meat from that, and you were to sell, you know, 2 of those sheep, right? So about 100 pounds of meat at direct sale prices, which, hey, if you could just find 2 people, 2 of your friends, and say, hey, I'll sell you a whole lamb at direct sale pricing, that is, you know, you're already covering the cost. Like, I usually, when I sell a whole lamb, it's usually between $400 and $500 for the whole sheep. So you do that math. Let's pretend you paid $500. Well, now you've sold 1 sheep for $500 and another sheep for $500. So now you're at a $500 profit or to cover, other miscellaneous expenses like feed, fences, whatever. And you still have your own lamb in your freezer. So economically, I mean, it's a pretty quick return. Whereas, let's go back to my trio example. I've never broken positive on that trio, given the other expenses that I've had because, I had to buy a different ram every so often. I had to pay for a stud, or now I need different ewes, like da-da-da-da. It's hard. It's hard that way. So really, the three things that it comes down to are: one, fast time to product. It is less than a year before you've got lamb. Number two, you will make a profit and have meat in your freezer within your first year. Again, if you start off with a trio, 2 ewes and a ram, it's going to be a while off before you have that. And then three, the most valuable thing is you'll learn if you actually want sheep. You might decide no, or you might decide, wow, I don't have the infrastructure, or wow, my fences aren't working, or wow, I didn't know I had to rotate them that much, or wow, parasites are an issue. You'll learn all these things. And if you want to keep doing it afterward, great, you can. And you've probably made a good relationship with someone who you've bought sheep from, and you've learned something along the way. I know I'm not going to convince everyone to do things this way. And if you want to go forward with sheep like I did, with 2 ewes and a ram or more ewes than that, more power to you. You really can make it work. You'll just have a bumpier road. But if you've got the time and you're willing to learn, or if you have experience with livestock before, go that route. But for the folks like me that maybe have a bigger ambition than is good for them, I really would have appreciated this advice while starting out. And if you're in the looking stage for sheep, you're still trying to figure out what breed you want, check out this video. We put so much work into this, researching the 10 best hair breeds of sheep that will be great for any homestead. I promise you'll find something in that video if you're looking for sheep. That's it for today. I'm PJ with the High Mountain Homestead. I'll see you on the next video.